Hello, I'm Esther Sparks, and I was born in Omaha, Nebraska on May 28th, 1912. My dad came to the United States, leaving my mother in Russia with two children, a boy and a girl. He came to Omaha approximately in 1905, but when I think about it, it must have come a little earlier because mother stayed in Russia and lost two children while dad had come to the United States. He came to the United States on the behest of his teacher, who said that he came to Omaha because his teacher in Russia had told him that Omaha could use a Hebrew teacher. So when my dad came to New York, he stopped in New York and worked as a plasterer. He had he didn't have anything. He had no skills, but he worked there in order to earn some money so that he could come to Omaha to take a job as a Hebrew teacher. Well, when he finally got to Omaha, I don't remember, he was a boarder someplace, I can't remember where it was. And I guess he must have earned a living in Omaha. I can't remember how he did that, unless it was teaching children the Hebrew. You know that in the early days we didn't have a Hebrew school the way we do now. The boys would come in after school and learn their Hebrew. So Dad opened a little school in the back of the house. We lived on 21st and Clark, and he built an addition to the house that was his cheder, and the boys would come after school. And years later, when I would meet some of the fellows that my dad taught, they'd come up to me and they'd pinch my face and they'd say, "That's what your dad used to say to me if I made a mistake when he was teaching me." Because Dad had a quick temper. Mother was the one that would help him to calm down. So Dad had this cheder, and he taught many leaders of the Jewish community at the time, who became leaders of the Jewish community. Then Dad caught double pneumonia, and at that time Dr. Scher was the main Jewish doctor in Omaha, and he told him that he couldn't teach anymore because he didn't have the strength to do that. So Dad recuperated. I remember I had to stay home and go to get his medication up on 24th Street, some red stuff, whatever it was, and he was taking it all the time to build up his strength. So at that time, we lived on 21st and Clark, and there was a grocery store on the corner of, we lived at 21st, a little away from Clark, about 2 doors away from Clark. But there was a little grocery store on the corner of 21st and Clark, an old couple, and they wanted to get rid of it. And there was, I think, a man by the name of Harris, who was a real estate or something. So Dad had no background in being a businessman at all, and he never did become one, but they moved into the store. And Sam Cohn from McCord Brady was the mentor there. He's the one that set up my dad and taught him how to be a grocer. And we moved in there. There was a house, there's a room. It was built. There was a little store, and then the house in the back attached to it. It was a pretty big house with an upstairs room upstairs. So we moved in there, and at that time, it was a Jewish neighborhood, but also blacks lived there. And my dad, as I say, had a fast temper, and he couldn't stand he called the women who came in the yachnas. He couldn't stand, they'd come in the store, and that's where they exchanged stories. So mother would pacify him, and she says, "You go in there, sit down, and I'll take care of him." And so we helped. I helped in the store. My oldest sister Sophie became a buyer. She worked for Herzberg's and became a buyer at Herzberg's, and she was very talented there, and she had a very good job there. My sister Beth worked at Carpenter Paper Company, and I got a job when I graduated high school. I didn't really want to go to work right after I got to graduated high school. I wanted to rest a while, but I got a call from someone who said, "Please come and help me at State Furniture Company. I want to go away for a vacation for just a week, and I'll come back." Well, she never did come back. So I was there, and I continued with the job. And at the time that I went there, I noticed that in a balcony, the store had a balcony, and I noticed Sal there. And I didn't know him, but I knew him through Tech High because I went to Tech High also. And I thought, gee, Tech High is here. I mean, Sal works here too. So I stayed downstairs, and the credit manager was Phil Sherman, who was a friend of our family's. And so as soon as they needed some kind of help upstairs, he asked me told me to come up, and I had to work with Sal. And that's how I became acquainted with Sal.
Esther, where did you start elementary school?
When I started elementary school.
What school did you go to?
Kellum School. I went to Kellum School, and it was a nice school at that time. As I say, there were some black people, but not at that time. There wasn't a lot of blacks, so there may be one in your class. But I had some nice teachers, except one in my third grade class I didn't like. But I did well in grade school. Our whole family did well. In fact, years later, they had a picture of the three of us, my sister Sophie, Beth, and I, in the newspapers that we each had all made the honor roll.
Tell me a little bit about your sisters.
My sister Sophie was really something. She was really something. She was very, very talented and very popular with the boys and with the men. And she worked at Herzberg's and became a buyer. And then she had married, while she was at Herzberg's, she had met somebody at a party or something by the name of Harry Laff, who lived on 19th Street, a little beyond Clark. And Harry was a handsome, blonde, handsome fellow, and that was unusual, So she fell in love with him. And he wanted to be a writer. And after she worked at Herzberg, somebody hired her to go to California to work there. I can't remember what store it was.
Although she went to the department store first.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was, but she went there, and she went with Harry, and Harry decided he wanted to be a writer. So she became the
Breadwinner.
The one who earned the money for Harry. And she had so many men friends that are crazy about her there. And I talked to a number of them, and they would tell me how wonderful they thought Sophie was. But she was married to Harry.
She went to Lerner's.
And trying to remember what happened there when she was in California.
You want me to tell you?
She became a sports writer, a sports good, sports goods sales buyer for this company. Sophie was a remarkable woman, and she died. I don't remember when she died, but I really feel she died from overwork and from worry. But she was such a lovely lady.
Did she have children?
No children.
And how about your other sister?
So Beth worked for Carpenter Paper Company. She used to come to, when I worked at State Furniture, she used to walk up from Carpenter Paper and we used to walk home together. So Beth married Morris Broadkey, who was a doctor. And she had 2 children, a son, Mark, who is also a doctor who lives in Kansas City, and a daughter, Dee Dee, Dale, Deborah, who died, and we don't know why.
She died in Lincoln. She was working for the state. She was a lawyer.
That's what she was doing in Lincoln? They went on some kind of a trip there, and she must have caught something, and she became ill, so she came back to Omaha.
No, she came back to
And
Lincoln.
they never found out what she died of. It was so sad to see that. And I remember our daughter Linda was like Dee Dee's age, and so the 2 were very, very good friends. So Linda came in from where she was living at that time, and she was in a coma, and we talked to her, and we just couldn't wake her up, and she died. We just couldn't wake her up, and it was so sad. So Dee Dee died.
And Art.
Now tell me about how you and Saul got to know one another working together.
Okay,
Finish
so when
about
I
her
went to
family.
work for State Furniture about my family. There were 5 girls and 1 boy. There was Sophie, Beth, and Esther and Art, and
Ray and Shirley.
and
Ray and Shirley.
and Ray and Shirley. So Art and I shared middles, and it was Sophie, Beth, Esther, Art, Ray, and Shirley. So what else?
Tell me about Shirley.
Shirley is a very, very capable girl.
Talented.
She's very talented. She sews beautifully. Shirley has 4 children.
Sons.
Jeff and who?
John.
Oh, John,
Jeff. Dan.
and Matt. 4 boys. She wanted a girl because my mother had died right in between there. So she didn't expect to have so many children, so she tried to have a daughter, but by the time she had her 4th son, she gave up. Anyway, they're wonderful, wonderful children.
Do they live here in Omaha?
No. So Shirley married a fellow by the name of Bernie Greenberg, but that's how she became. I always called her. I said, Shirley, when I'm mad at you, you're my cousin. Otherwise, you're my sister. And Bernie was a wonderful, wonderful fellow. Wonderful fellow. And they lived in Grand Island for quite a while. So we were close there. And then, I don't know how they happened to go to Chicago. How did they happen to go to Chicago? What?
Okay, turn it off
The
now.
clothing store. Yeah, 2 of them.
Ladies.
He had 2 of them. Yeah, and Shirley is very talented. She's a beautiful sewer. She made those draperies there. So she used to help Bernie in the store. And but anyway, so he became ill,
Right.
and I
They
remember.
had to take him to the hospital,
Yeah.
and he missed the second day.
Yeah, and I remember when they said, what is that word they called, blue? They called that sign out, blue, that he was
Talk
dying,
louder.
yeah. And that's the way he died, yeah, that's when he died. He was a dear, dear person.
Now, how about your brother? Tell me about
My
your
brother Art, you know, when you have 5 daughters and you have a son, he's the apple of your eye, you know. So Art got everything. Art got the bicycle and Art got the car and so forth. So he, Bess's husband, Morris, who was a doctor, became ill with either rheumatism, whatever it was, but he needed somebody to drive him. So Art drove him where he had to go to take care of his patients. And I guess he was stuck with the idea of being a doctor. So he went to up there.
Nebraska Medical.
Hmm?
He went to Nebraska.
He went to Nebraska and then he went
To
to
Mayo's.
hmm?
Mayo's.
to Mayo's to get whatever his.
Residency.
I don't know what Art's field was though.
Ear, nose, throat.
Hmm?
Ear, nose, throat.
Ear, nose, and throat. Okay. And Art. When did he marry? When did he meet Tinker?
In California.
Hmm?
California.
In California.
He went to practice in California.
He went to practice. Where did he go?
California to
Now where?
practice. In a little town outside of Los Angeles. I can't remember the name.
But anyway, so he went to practice in Los Angeles and he met Tinker, who was not Jewish. And he married her.
Still
And my mother, of course, my folks were rather devastated. And mother said, my mother was rather she wasn't sophisticated. So she said in Jewish something about disowning him, and Dad says, no, you don't. You don't do that anymore. You don't do that. So anyway, so they accepted his marriage. And Tinker's a very nice person. And they had two sons, John and one other. And was John the one that had the accident? So one of the boys had an accident and became unable to
Paralyzed.
function,
Paralyzed. Paralyzed.
paralyzed. What has happened to him now, I don't know, and I don't know what happened to the other one. But we're still in touch with Art and Tinker. In fact, Tinker called just the other day, last week or so. Let's see what else. And my sister Ray is having, Ray married a fellow by the name of Saul Gimpel, and they had 2 children, a daughter and a son. And the son came first, and she had a very difficult birth. And he was born with, there was
Mentally impaired.
a lack of oxygen. So he was not normal. When he was first born, we were out there. We went out to see him, and he was a sweet little baby. But he never did develop normally. And so when they took whatever they could do, they had somebody help him with him. And when he grew older, there was a place called
Lark. L-A-R-C.
the Lark, L-A-R-C, they called the Lark Ranch, a place
Los
where
Angeles
people
retired
like,
retarded children.
the son went. So he went there to live. And so Ray and Saul would come down to visit him periodically. And when we would come to California to visit Ray and Saul, we'd go to see him. But their daughter Barbie is a very brilliant woman. And Barbie now has a very big job. She married a non-Jew and lives in
Sacramento,
Sacramento. And she's
works for the state. She works for the state.
and she works for the state. She has a big job there, and I guess comes down as and we hear from her periodically, but she sends us email, and Stevie died, the boy who was Stevie died. So all she has now is Barbie, and Ray just recently. They lived in Camarillo, and
Leisure
they
Village.
have a little house.
Leisure Village.
It's a leisure village, you know, it's a closed community. And we visited them, we made a trip every year to see Ray and Sal, and they would come here to Omaha too. And Barbie lives up in Sacramento, and Barbie now has, as I say, a big job for the community.
Esther, can you tell me a little bit about your going to high school?
My high school, I went to Tech High also, and I had a wonderful time in high school, Tech High. I had a lot of friends, girls and boys, and when I graduated Tech High in
29.
when did I graduate?
1929.
1929. And I didn't want to go to work right away because my two older sisters were working and I wanted to rest a while. So then I got a call from somebody that I hardly knew. And she said she wanted to go away for a week. Would I come and help her? I says, I don't know anything about business or anything. She says, you don't have to know anything about business. All you have to do is greet people who come in. It's a furniture store and give them a salesman. I said, all right, I'll come for a week. And so she didn't come back. So I stayed there. You would greet them, greet the customers that come in, ask them what they're interested in, and there are salesmen sitting on the side there, and you'd call one and they'd take it. So I was there. So I'm sitting up there downstairs and I see Sal. And I didn't know him except I knew who he was. I said, oh, Sal Graetz lives there. So Phil Sherman was the credit manager there, who was a friend of our family's. So when he needed somebody, I don't know how it happened, he asked me to come upstairs and help Sal. And this was a store that sold on credit. And when I was the cashier downstairs, you had to greet the people coming in and take their payments and so forth. And we had machines that we worked. So when I went upstairs, I had to help Sal. And so that's how I became close to him. And it developed that, I don't know, once he asked me to go out for a date. I don't remember. I can't remember our first date.
I don't remember it either. I don't remember the first one. The first one I remember was when we went to a dance, and my brother-in-law Sam Theodore, who had a tux rental, gave us my buddies Martin and Leo and I.
know you
He
came in
outfitted
tux.
us with tuxedos.
But that wasn't.
And we went to the dance. We dressed up. We had top hats.
Yeah, I remember. But that wasn't my first date with you, though, Sal, was it?
But I don't remember what I first
I
did.
don't think so. Whatever it was anyway. So, but we got tied up, the two of us got tied. And so we went out a lot. We had wonderful times. In those days, you had Peony Park that had a swimming pool. So we used to go out on Sunday, first we'd go out on Saturday nights. We had there were three couples. We'd go out on Saturday night, we'd go to Blackstone. And I don't remember what we did there. And then we'd go to Peony Park on Sunday. But where did we dance?
We danced at several places. At Shermott Ballroom
Yeah,
and at the old Paxton Hotel and at Peony
wait.
Park. We danced at Peony Park too.
yeah, that's where I thought we danced. Anyway, we were going out Saturday night and Sunday for a long, long time.
Do you remember your wedding?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Tell me about it.
Well, Al said we did Bethel. Yeah, Bethel. We had. Did we? We didn't join, but we wouldn't have. We weren't married yet. We were married at the Paxton Hotel, and I can't even remember where we're dressed, but we had. It was an Orthodox wedding, and. Mother and Dad were there, and all my siblings, and
All except Shirley.
hmm?
All except Shirley. All except Shirley, and she's still mad at you because you said she was too young.
Yeah, but I too much about the wedding, except that we once we were married.
I can remember
We went
signing,
to.
You remember signing the ketubah?
Yes, we had to do that, and yeah, and I know that we lived at Theodore Terrace, and after the wedding, we went back to Theodore Terrace, and I changed my clothes. Oh, I had a very, very pretty dress. I still have it. I have a beautiful, beautiful wedding dress, and we changed my clothes, and I met the rabbi. We lived at Theodore Terrace, and Rabbi and Saul's sister was the president of the Sisterhood, and Rabbi Goldstein was visiting her when he saw me dressed up in just nothing, the pants and not pants at that time. Were we wearing pants?
I don't think so.
A skirt and a top, nothing fancy. So he says, "Are you going on your honeymoon with that?" And I says, "Yes, we are," because it was hot. It was summer. So we drove to
Des Moines.
Des Moines and stayed overnight in Des Moines, and then we drove to Chicago, to what was the place?
Edgewater Beach. Edgewater Beach.
Edgewater Beach Hotel, and it was just lovely. The music was so beautiful, and we danced there, and there was water there. It was a lovely, lovely honeymoon. It's a beautiful honeymoon.
After you came back to Omaha, did you work, Esther?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I did. I went back to work at where did I go back to work? I went to State Furniture Company. I did. I went back to State Furniture Company, and not long after that, I became pregnant, and I stayed. I worked until. They didn't mind. I was a pretty good in my job, so I stayed there until pretty close to having my son Martin.
He was born during Passover.
Hmm?
He was born during Passover.
And I remember going to the hospital, and this hospital was north on, I can't remember, it's Covenant, Evangelical Covenant, Covenant Hospital or something like that.
Not in business anymore.
And I had Martin there, and I remember they called me from, it was a Seder time, and they called me from
From your
the
folks,
Seder,
from your folks, from
and,
your folks,
huh?
from your folks.
From the folks, and I remember I cried because I was missing Seder, and then I had such a wonderful child.
Tell me about your life today, Esther.
Well, our life today has really been great. We've had a very beautiful marriage, very loving marriage. Our children are loving children. I can't say that there was anything. There might have been just one time when I was angry at him for something, but other than that, I don't think we've ever had any major problems. Because he's been a very easy person to get along with. Now I want to send a message to my children. You know, kids, we've had, you know, that you and Daddy, that Daddy and I have had a very wonderful relationship. And I've always wanted you to have good relationships together with your sister and brother. And I want you to always remember that you are a family. We love you, and we want you to stay as a family. Love each other. Back up everything that you have to do with every one of you. And remember that we're giving you a legacy of honor and integrity and love. Honey, I want to tell you, as you know, that I love you very much. It's been so wonderful being married to you. You've been a kind, loving, sensitive person.
Stubborn.
And we've had a
Stubborn.
wonderful marriage.